There are no bad men. Go ahead, disagree with me. But I don't believe there are actually any bad men. Evil men, men who wish harm and destruction on our communities. No, I don't think there are actually any men who are inherently bad. Instead, I believe that there are wounded men. And I get asked this question all the time, usually by women. Where are all the good men at? And I put good in some of those air quotes there because good man is very subjective. What is a good man in this day and age? Is it a man who just does right by people, who does the good thing, does the small things well, who lives by a high moral code? What is a good man? And in order to understand what a bad man is, we got to understand what we mean by good. And even subscribing these words good and bad to it has this layer of subjectivity that I just rather not get caught up in. But this idea that there are bad men in society. Yeah, granted, there are people who do atrocious, deplorable things. People who make really bad decisions that affect other people. I'll give that all day long. There's lots of men on this planet who do things that hurt and harm other people. But in my opinion, I don't think that these men are inherently bad. I don't think that they were born that way. In fact, I think that every single one of us, if born into the right circumstances, receiving the right amount of love, being protected from things like abuse and trauma at young ages, having good examples of men, male, masculine leadership in our lives, if every one of us had that same formula, there'd be a lot less of these headlines, of these examples of bad men doing bad things on the planet. So instead of bad men, just try this on for a second. There's plenty of wounded men out there. I'm one of them. There's plenty of men out there who have had traumatic, shameful experiences, things that they've done in their past that they were deplored for, that they were hated on for. Every single one of us has something. Maybe it's something that happened to you. Maybe someone else did something really harmful to you and it affected you. It affected the way you see yourself or the way you see the world. Perhaps someone did something that made it so you can't trust men, or you don't trust women, or you don't trust yourself or certain places and people and things. You see, every one of us is the product of our experiences, our environment, where we grew up, how we grew up, things that happened to us. But the innocence of youth, of childhood, if all things are the same and we're raised in a loving, nurturing environment, which I get is a privilege in this day and age. Not everybody gets that. But if we were to find a way to create that, would there actually be this conversation of good and bad? Would we still have this idea that there are bad men in the world? That there's a shortage of good men in the world? I don't think so. I think this is something that we all get to take responsibility for. There's plenty of examples of men doing bad things. We have school shootings. We have corrupt politicians. We have murders and drug trafficking and human trafficking and rape and sexual abuse and sexual assault, physical harm, emotional harm, mental harm being brought to other people by people. These are bad things. These are harmful things. These are choices and actions that perpetuate a way of being, a pattern of humanity that none of us really want. And I bet you if you could get to the heart, if you could do heart surgery on somebody, if you can pick one of these so-called bad men and you cut them open and you could examine their heart and their heart could speak to you and tell you what their deepest desire is, I guarantee you it would be to love and be loved, to feel supported, to feel belonging, to be a part of something, to feel like he had something to give and that what he had to give was valued. That he could share love with somebody and have family with somebody and share in some of these powerful, momentous life occasions with people that he trusts. I think that every single one of us wants that. And the unique set of circumstances that we have growing up, or the things that happen to us, the things that we participate in, the choices we make at young ages that impact the rest of our lives and the trajectory that we go on, that's what determines the difference. That's what makes the difference between what we call good men and bad men. And sometimes one bad choice, one left turn when I should have went right, sets me off on an entire life path of bad, one decision after the next that ultimately is the label, the identity that everyone else believes, and even I start to believe about myself, that I'm a bad man. We got to do better than this. We got to take responsibility as a whole society for all of these quote unquote bad people. We created them. No bad person creates themselves. Their circumstances, There's experiences, there's beliefs that were implanted into them at a young age. There were behaviors that were modeled for them consciously or unconsciously in most cases. That's what creates these examples of bad men, when really we're just wounded men. Men who didn't have the love and the support that they needed at a young age when they were just boys, when they were just children. Men who didn't have the strong examples of masculine leadership that we all know we can benefit from. But we know this. We know what strong masculine leadership looks like. Many of us have the resources available to us now. There's no excuse. That's the work. Everybody talks about the work this day and age. All that work really is figuring out how to identify and overcome the traumas and the wounding that you've experienced so that you don't perpetuate the pattern. So you don't pass it on to your kids, or you don't pass it on to the next generation, because somebody's always watching, whether you're a parent or not. So there are no bad men. At least I don't believe there are. Sure, there's people who do bad, harmful things to others. No doubt. Examples of that all day long. But inherently bad people? Let's take another look at that. Let's rethink it. Let's see if we can frame it up differently so that we can actually work towards a solution as a society instead of discarding people because we've labeled them to be bad men. Now, if you resonate with this, tell me. If you don't agree with this and you have all of your complaints and suggestions about how I could look at this differently, then tell me. Tell me, because I'm open to it and I want to hear it. This is the dialogue that I think we need to be having as a society right now. So share the message, spread the word. See what other people think, because this is just my thoughts, my opinions on it. But I hope you tune in next week to our Monday morning meditation and keep dropping this wisdom, keep receiving this wisdom and sharing it, circulating it amongst each other, because that's the way that we all grow, together as one people. All right, y'all, much love and many blessings.